We talked about the pulmonary circuit, the pulmonary circulation, and the systemic circulation. But there also has to be a circulation for the myocardium, and that's due to the coronary circulation. When people have heart attacks, the myocardium is denied oxygen because the coronary blood vessels aren't able to deliver that oxygen to the myocardium. So coming right out of the aorta is the right and the left coronary arteries, and they travel within the coronary sulcus and supply the heart with oxygen and nutrients. They branch off of the ascending aorta. So the right coronary artery branches into the right marginal artery and the inferior interventricular artery, which is on the posterior surface of the left and right ventricles. On the left side of the heart, we have the left coronary artery that branches into the anterior interventricular artery, as well as the circumflex artery. A lot of times in the hospital, they will refer to the anterior interventricular artery as the LAD, which stands for left anterior descending. On this slide, you can see those coronary blood vessels. So first, you can see the coronary sulcus located directly between the atria and the ventricle, as well as over here between the left atrium and the left ventricle. So coming out of the heart, branching off of the ascending aorta here would be where the coronary arteries begin. On the right side of the heart is the right coronary artery, located just in this vicinity right here. On the left side of the heart, we have the left coronary artery between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Now, there's branches off of each of these. The branches on the right side here, there's two of them. There is an inferior interventricular artery, which actually crosses to the posterior side of the heart. So we'll see it on the next slide. The other branch of the right coronary artery is the right marginal artery, which is going to descend down here to where the right ventricle mass is found. So the inferior interventricular artery is actually going to be on the posterior side. The reason it's shown as a lighter color here is because it's on the back of the heart. And again, the right marginal artery is going to go down here to the area of the right ventricle. On the left side of the heart, we have the left coronary artery, which is going to branch and lead to two different branches. First, we have the circumflex artery, which is going to begin here, and it's going to wrap around to the back, the posterior side of the heart. So this portion right here, where I have the laser pointer, is showing the posterior side of the heart, where it has a lighter color. And then finally, it also leads to the anterior interventricular artery. This is the one that is also called the left anterior descending, which is also called the abbreviated as the LAD. It's kind of the medical term they use for it when they refer to it in the hospital. The LAD is a lot of times called the widowmaker because it will tend to kill males and leave a widow. The rest of the coronary circulation includes veins now. So we've seen the arteries. It began with the right coronary artery leading into the inferior interventricular artery, as well as the right marginal artery. So there's these three. And then the other three are the left coronary artery leading into the circumflex and the anterior interventricular artery. So the rest of the coronary circulation is now including the veins. So we basically had 6 arteries, and there's going to be 4 veins. There's three major veins, one of which is called the great cardiac vein, and that's going to be on the anterior surface of the heart. And it runs alongside the anterior interventricular artery, also called the LAD. Then there's a middle cardiac vein, which is going to be on the posterior side of the heart. And it's going to run alongside the inferior interventricular artery. On the right side of the heart, where the right ventricle is another one called the small cardiac vein, and that travels close to the right marginal artery. So these coronary arteries are paired up with the coronary veins. Again, the great cardiac veins on the front next to the anterior interventricular artery. The middle cardiac vein is on the posterior, the back of the heart, runs next to the inferior interventricular artery. And then the small cardiac vein is by the right marginal artery down near the right ventricle. So now within the veins are deoxygenated blood that is returning from the myocardium back to the heart. The place where it drains into is the coronary sinus, and that drains into the right atrium. So the entrance points into the right atrium are going to include the superior vena cava, which is going to have deoxygenated blood from the top of the heart, the coronary sinus, which is returning deoxygenated blood from the myocardium, and finally the inferior vena cava, which is returning deoxygenated blood back to the right atrium. So looking at the veins now, we can see them shown here. So there's a total of 4. So we first have the great cardiac vein on the front of the heart, and it's going to run alongside the anterior interventricular artery. So there would be another artery right next to it here. They're just showing veins on this particular diagram. In the back of the heart, we have the middle cardiac vein, which is going to run alongside another interventricular artery. And finally, we have the small cardiac vein, which is going to run alongside the right marginal artery, where the right ventricle is located at.